This is called the homeowner life cycle. And the research that we did, we spent over $4 million altogether on this program, not to help us understand how to be better at selling. Because how many of you like to be sold or pitched to, right? If you keep calling your people and tell them, hey, are you ready to buy or sell? Do you know someone ready to buy or sell? Can you give me the names of 5 of your friends that might be ready to buy or sell so I can call them and give them the same damn awful phone call? We don't do that. We shouldn't be doing that anymore. Crumbl Cookies is a huge business out here in Utah, primarily because of real estate agents. You do not have to take cookies to your past clients and your customers. Could you imagine your lawyer coming to your house with a box of Crumbl Cookies and then saying, I would love for you to come and pick out a free pumpkin at the pumpkin harvest contest, and then we're going to take pictures and put them up on social media and talk about how great it was for you to work with me as your lawyer? That would never happen. Our CPA wouldn't do it. No other professional would do that. But as real estate agents, we've diminished our role and our quality of what we have to offer to literally giving out pumpkins and Crumbl Cookies and calling people on a regular basis to see if they're ready to buy or sell, when only 4% of people at any given time in any given place are ready to buy or sell. Is that nuts? If you think about it that way, it's just crazy. It's just nuts. Now, one thing we did find out that when we did this research, 33% of people want to buy or sell. They just can't figure out how to do it. If you can teach them how to do it and why they should do it and set them up for it, now you're in business for quality of service. So what we did with this life cycle is we determined that there's 6 different stages to home ownership, 6 of them. And that there are needs at every single one of those stages. Every single one of your clients, everybody you know in your SOI is in here somewhere. Or they're trying to get in there because they're doing what? They're renting. How many renters want to buy? Most of them, not all of them. There's some people out there that think that buying is not, anyway. But there are some, but most of them want to buy, but they can't figure it out. How many of you 2 years ago wanted to buy and they didn't because of what? Or 3 years ago now, maybe. Oh, the multiple offers and the house prices are so crazy. And now they're not doing it because of why? Interest rates are up. They don't realize that there's this kind of a scale. It's not like there's just one side of, oh, it's going to be a really good time to buy and rates will be good and it just, things happen the way they do. You know what's a good time? Why is it a good time to buy right now? Because there's no competition and sellers are giving up tons of concessions and lowering their prices. Great time to buy. And if you can get them to do a concession that's a buy down, if you know how to talk about buy downs, right? And you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but how do you talk about it? How do you intentionally teach people about buy down? But here's the thing, what I'm trying to say is, if you could save 100 grand on a house right now, because sellers that are selling, even though there's not as many as we would like, but how many of you have seen reductions after reduction after reduction? My phone just buzzes all day long about the next reduction on houses that we're kind of keeping our eye on, right? They just keep going down. And then if you talk to the sellers and you say, yeah, I want the reduction, but I also want a 3-2-1 buy down, and I want you to help pay for some of these closing costs. I want the full whatever 3% or whatever it is that we can get in concessions, plus I want the reduction and maybe a little bit more. And then I want you to fix these 3 things at the house before I buy it. Could you imagine that happening 3 years ago? If you would have said concession to a seller 3 years ago, what would they have done to you? They'd have laughed. And now they're saying, hey, I'll buy. But our consumers don't know this yet. They're waiting for interest rates to go down. Yeah, that's going to be a wonderful time when interest rates go down. Then what happens? Prices go back up again. And so it just goes back and forth like that. So what we're going to do, and what I'll show you, not today, hopefully you come and join us with all the other courses this goes with, because this is a business. I want to teach you how to build and grow a business based on a quality of service that's in such high demand that everything you want will skyrocket. But it has to start with what they want before it's about what you want. Does that make sense? I know that sounds crazy. How many of you have read The Go-Giver? Have you ever read that book before? Or you've heard of that kind of philosophy? The more you give, the more you get type of thing? That is really how it works in a service-based industry. If you're serving other people, if you serve better than others, guess what happens? Competitively, you're better. And they'll pay more money for it. Does that make sense? If you're a restaurant and you charge a whole lot of money for your food, does that make it better? No. Doesn't mean people are going to go because you charge a whole lot of money for it. But if your service and your food are absolutely incredible, what's going to happen to your reservations at that restaurant? right? It's the same thing across any business. The thing with real estate, though, is we have all these agents that get licensed, and the only thing you learned how to do when you got licensed is how not to go to jail, right? Or how to put a contract through. That's basically all they taught you. They didn't teach you necessarily, not that you didn't learn it or figure it out in some other way, about how to bring value to a client that's trying to buy and sell properties. I can't tell you how many agents that I've met, they've never even owned a house before. Right? And I'm not saying you have to buy a house in order to be a good agent, but what I'm saying is when you learn about the fine details within each one of these stages, and then you bring value to each one of those, you never have to worry about the 4% who are ready to buy or sell right now. We actually get most of our clients right here. We rarely go after these people, or at least right here. This is where everybody, it's shark-infested waters during the home shopping stage. We are like literally fighting over people during this stage, and we're fighting over them so much, guess what we do? I'll show you homes for free. That's what we do. We're literally showing people homes for free and working for free because we're all fighting over the people that are right here, the 4% of people right here. Whereas, you know how many people are right here and they're like, I am ready, but I don't know how. I would love to, but I don't know how. I had a conversation with my neighbor not too long ago. We were talking about how much our home prices have gone up since we bought them. So we've been in our neighborhood for over a decade. And we're talking about, oh my gosh, how much our home prices have gone up. So I asked them, how much equity do you have in your home, right? $600,000 in equity. 600. You know what the average American has in equity in their houses right now? Anyone know what it is? It's close. It's around 270. It used to be over 300 until prices came down a little bit. 270,000 average equity all of our homeowners have right now. How much interest is that equity earning for them right now? Zero. How many of you would have $270,000 sitting in your safe at home or in your mattress and not do anything with it? Anybody, would anybody do that? No. But most people don't know what to do with equity. Guess how I buy all my properties? Do you think I make so much money that I can buy 10, 12 properties a year or more? No. How do I buy those properties? Equity. I leverage equity and I leverage people's living expenses. How's that? Renters. How many, could you imagine if you could go out there and buy a stock and then the person that's issuing that stock says to you, I'm going to give you a 90% or an 80% loan to get this stock, but the stock pays a dividend that will pay what you have to pay me for that loan. So guess how much it's going to cost you to own that property? Zero. And that's your investment. And how many homes can you buy if you keep doing that? You know, you have to be careful not to be over leveraged. You have to know that markets can change a little bit. But if you know how to do it smartly, all of a sudden you're positioning yourself to build and grow wealth. 87% of America's wealth is where? In real estate, typically in their own homes. Most people in this country retire not on the amount of money they put into their 401k. Or what they get from Social Security, which who knows if that'll be around. Guess how they retire? They sell that house that's now paid off after they've owned it for all these years, and they've got $500,000 to work with. So helping people understand how to leverage equity. So this neighbor of mine, he's got $600,000. It's like, what are you going to do with it? And he goes, what do you mean? I don't want to what? What does he not want to do? I don't want to sell my house. I'm like, well, why would you? But you can still take that money and buy others. That's what I do. And he goes, yeah, he's bought now one and we're going on a second property right now. Just because we had that nice little conversation. But it wasn't just the conversation. I brought him into a meeting. We call it, and I'll teach you how to do this, it's a home equity assessment appointment. We have appointments for our clients before they go out and start shopping for a home to get them ready to buy. For our first-time buyers, we call it the pathway to qualification. And we sit down with them when we put a plan together on how to put all the numbers and all of the everything they've got to do to get ready to do it, and then they get excited to do it, and then they do it. And then it works, and then guess what they want to do again? Exactly. That's why it's a circle. You know what every other coach will teach you in real estate? Here's a funnel. Here's a pipeline. Here's closing. Let's get as many people in that funnel as we possibly can. Let's get them under contract, get them to close, and then we rinse and repeat. And then in between, I'll send you a monthly newsletter that nobody reads. Every year I'll call you on your anniversary because that's what my coach told me to do. I will ask you for 5 of your friends and family right after you give me a review so that I can talk to them and see if they want to buy or sell. And I'll bring you Crumble cookies every quarter or every month. And every quarter we'll have an appreciation event. And that's how we run our businesses. I want to teach you how to run a business based on a quality of service during each one of the 6 stages of the life cycle, giving them what they need and what they want each stage. They will never leave you. They will tell other people about you, and you don't even have to ask them to do it. Because now it's about a business solution, a business offering. We call it a solution because you're solving problems that they have, or you're helping them get what they want beyond a transaction. When we focus on the transaction, all we're doing is transacting. That's all. And anybody can do that. How many of you have a transaction coordinator? Some of the top agents that I've worked with out there, they don't even transact anymore. They just have a transaction coordinator and a marketing coordinator do all the work. And then it's crazy. I asked them, you just made $60,000 off of that $3 million house that you helped someone sell. And what did you do for that? And like, well, I built a team. I have it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as the services that they offered, they hired a photographer to go take pictures and a videographer to take videos. They put the house up on the MLS with a sign. They had their marketing coordinator send out an email blast to all the agents in the area, which is a good service to do beyond just letting the MLS take care of it. But for the most part, who sold that house after you set it up on the MLS? The other agents that brought a buyer. And then we just continue to cycle through that quality of service. Is that a quality of service? Or is that just a workflow process that has been set up kind of with the NAR kind of leading that effort? It works. And buyers are more than happy to use the buyer agents to go and look at properties because they don't pay directly for them. And now a little wrench has been thrown into that effort, that cycle. So what do you do? Let's start with that process now. Let's say you've already got a buyer. The buyer calls you up, and when do they call you up? When they want to look at a house. How many of you would say that most of the time when a buyer contacts you, it's because they have a desire to do what? To look at a house. To look at a house, right? They have a house in mind. How many of you have had a buyer call you up and not have a house in mind? Has that happened? Does it happen often? Does it happen often enough? It should happen every time. Right? But they're mostly, and those that are veteran agents that have been doing this for a while, that have a SOI that knows them, they start thinking about buying properties, they will hopefully call you. Do you know how long people spend thinking about buying a property? Anybody know?
3 to 5.
About a year. They spend about a year thinking about it. The last 3 to 5 months, if you've been in my class and you've heard that before or read the book, 3 to 5 months, they actually start doing something about it. What do they do about it? They go online and they go mostly on Zillow. Zillow gets, I think the last I looked, it was like close to 60 million visitors a month on their website. They say 50% of them are actively looking to buy a property. So we buy leads from Zillow. Anybody buy, well, you don't have to tell me if you do or not, but we buy leads from Zillow or Realtor.com or one of those. We do. But we have a whole different process about bringing value to that part of it. And it's harder once they're ready to buy. Because at that point, your role is to do what? Open a door, right? That's what they expect from you. I want you to open up a door. So this is what I'm going to teach you today, and then I'll show you how you can get more of this if you want as we get towards the end of this, to execute on it. Because that's the difference between learning about something and being able to execute on it, right? Is those steps that it takes to do that execution. So here's what I recommend. When someone calls you up to look at a house, how do you respond? What's the typical response that you have as a real estate agent, and you've got your own time and money to worry about? Someone says, hey, John or Susie or whatever, I found this house. I'm standing here right now. I want to look at this house. Will you show it to me? How do you respond to that?